More than a dozen Colorado schools got the all clear after districts reported swatting calls throughout the day. So what exactly is swatting? It's a hoax phone call made to law enforcement about a serious threat. Today, the threats ranged from a bomb to active shooter threats. According to the National Association of School Resource Officers, it's estimated that hundreds of these calls are made each year. Now, Denver 7 doesn't typically cover hoax threats because we do not want to give the perpetrators the attention and the reaction that they seek. And we don't want to encourage copycats. But this is part of a broader trend from around the world that we think that you should know about. Rob Harris explains.
Sergeant Ryan Scavell was just a couple hours into his Wednesday morning shift when he heard a tone alert come over his radio.
Started my morning with day shift patrol at 6 a.m. Pretty typical, normal morning, not much going on. They tone the weapons call and they say that there's a potential active shooter at Boulder High. Two of my kids are school age, so anytime we get like a call at a school, it definitely kind of heightens your sense of what's going on there. When you've removed yourself from that situation, you really think about like, that could have been my kids.
It didn't take too long for Scavell and his fellow officers to realize that this call was likely a false alarm. Dispatch was aware that other schools across Colorado were getting similar threats, and officers on the ground had talked to Boulder High administration, but they still had to treat the threat as credible until they had for sure ruled it out.
We went and had them go into lockdown and then started doing a systematic search of the school, hoping that we weren't going to find anything, but planning that, hey, if we find something, whether it's a suspect or a victim or somebody injured, that we have the resources and a plan in place to deal with that.
Boulder Police was just one of the many agencies that had to pour time and resources into a hoax threat, often called swatting because of the SWAT team response. It has a real cost, not only to departments, but to the entire community.
We've seen a spate of school swatting threats that has gone on for months across the country.
Ken Trump specializes in school safety procedures nationwide. He says swatting threats often come from other states or even other countries and have the specific goal of creating confusion, fear, and chaos.
It's a sense of power, control, the ability to create fear, uncertainty, and to trigger a massive law enforcement response. There's not only a massive drain of law enforcement resources, but also swatting fatigue. Fatigue by school districts, the risk of school communities not taking threats seriously.
While swatting fatigue is a major concern following these hoax threats, Boulder police were thankful to not see any evidence of it this time around.
I will say that when the school went into lockdown, it was very obvious that they had trained that. And I would implore all schools, employers, anything like that to have a plan in place.
For Denver 7, I'm Rob Harris.
Well, this is a very disturbing trend. So let's take a look at the penalties people can face for making swatting calls here in Colorado. Under the current law passed in 2018, those caught making a swatting call are charged with a misdemeanor. If someone is injured because of the swatting call, a person is instead charged with a Class 4 felony. Now, here's the key thing. They must also pay restitution for how much the emergency response costs.